Hey guys, welcome to episode. I don't know. I can't ever keep track of this shit. But today I have two good friends of mine, and probably one of my favorite bands coming out of Southern California. And it's funny because it's a band that's like it's members of all these other bands that I grew up listening to. So it's cool to see peers and people that I looked up to continue to do music. Today we have the Eulogy. You guys want to introduce yourselves real quick, Matt?
Sure. Yeah. Matt Henderson. I play guitar.
Kevin Norton, bass.
Awesome. So we'll start it off as you guys, Kev, you're originally from Massachusetts. Matt, you're from New York, the city. What part of New York?
I'm originally from the Midwest, Minnesota. Yeah.
So how did the Eulogy start? How did it become a band? Being that it's the band is such a diverse group of members from different parts of the country. How did you guys end up becoming a band? Because it's kind of a weird dynamic to have,
Yeah.
How did the Eulogy start?
Go ahead, Kev. I think you can take that.
Okay, so the Eulogy starts really me, Matt, and Doug McKinnon, who are all really good friends. Matt lived in Boston for a time when he went to college. He went to Berklee School of Music. So we were all tight, would hang out every day, when he lived out there. And then when he got in Madball and started going to New York, like I'd drive him down, we'll go down for the weekend because, it's only a few hours away. So it'd be like, yo, live road trip. Let's go to New York, go hang out, sleep on Stigma's floor, or Freddie's floor. And so we've been friends for 30 years, whatever. And me and Doug were talking about doing a band, and I didn't think Matt would be interested, but our world is even tighter than that, because I moved to Long Beach. My next door neighbor is a lady named Mindy. Mindy moves to Boston. Mindy eventually ends up in New York, and Mindy eventually marries Matt. So like our Long Beach world intersected too. And so Mindy and my wife, Erica, worked at the same restaurant together. And Erica's telling her, hey, Kevin and Doug are going to start jamming. And she's like, hey, Matt wants to jam. I'm like, shit, there it is. There's the Eulogy. So we weren't planning to make money. It wasn't any like, let's go cash in on the kids in Europe, which I swear half the fucking bands out there are trying to do. But it was just like, hey, let's just jam. Let's have fun. So for us, it was like Monday Night Bowling League. Would go to practice space every Monday.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it for 7-8 years? Something like that. You would never know by the amount of production, releases we've had, but we go there and we have fun and we hang out, have a couple beers, and the other people have kind of rotated in and out a little bit, but for the most part, it's been a pretty steady lineup.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if people don't know, Matt Henderson used to play in Madball. And sometimes you still play with Madball, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still with the family, and every once in a while, some type of opportunity comes up where I get to join up with them, which is awesome.
So and Kevin used to play in Straight Faced, 54 Big Block, a bunch of other bands, but Eye for an Eye, yeah. So it's cool to see bands that for me growing up, these are bands that kind of like paved the way for me, and defined what hardcore is today. But 30 years later, you guys are still doing music and still playing in bands, and not necessarily touring. But why do you guys still play music?
I mean, I love it. It's pretty much been my main interest since as long as I can remember. I mean, from a little kid, even before playing an instrument, listening to music. I mean, I tell this story a lot. My old man he's a guy that, in my opinion, should play an instrument but doesn't, because he just loves music so much, and he's got a vinyl collection at this point that takes up an entire room.
That's awesome.
He's much more into jazz right now. That's kind of his main thing, but guaranteed he's got Bad Brains in the collection. He's got some modern, more heavy stuff, and he was the guy that turned me on to Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Cream, that early classic rock era that was of the heavier sound.
Yeah.
And that's something I've lived a part of my whole life, and I just love music and plus getting together with friends. You know what I mean? I mean, it gives me and Kevin and Sergio and Mark and Adam opportunity to get together and just bullshit because we enjoy hanging out with each other. So it's a win-win, you know?
Yeah, I mean, getting to watch you guys live, it's pretty cool to see that dynamic, because it's like, obviously, this is people don't realize you can't really make money off hardcore unless you're a band that's, you know, like Madball, like Terror, people that are literally grinding and touring nonstop.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, for the most part, playing in a hardcore band, it's costing you money more than you're actually making, you know? So, you know, for Kevin, what, you know, years later, you're still, you know, I see you all the time playing bass. Like, why do you still play music? Why are you still eager to play music, you know?
You know, it's funny because when I was younger, I used to see like bands with old dudes that were just kind of a bum out. Like, you know, when you see your favorite band and you're like, fuck are you still doing it for? They look like shit. And they're like, you know, and I took a huge layoff from playing music because I never wanted to be that. I went out on top, straight face. We did this awesome tour of Europe, played with Dropkick Murphys and Agnostic Front, playing 1,000 people a night.
Mm-hmm.
And like in Europe, you have like, well, at the time anyway, and probably only at that level, but we had like, you know, full like catering and, you know, everything's fucking awesome versus American tours where it's like, if you're lucky, they'll give you $5 each per band member to get a slice of pizza, you know? And so I kind of was like, you know, I'm going to go out like a champ. I'm not going to like wait till I'm like, you know, washed up and whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw a bunch of bands that I grew up with. Like I saw Black Sabbath, I saw some other ones, and I'm like, these dudes are 70 and kill it.
That's awesome.
And then a lot of the AF, you know, like seeing them still playing and seeing some of the Cro-Mags lineups. And I was like, you know what? I don't have to fucking be a bum out. You know, we can do it good.
I think,
and then we kind of tiptoed into it too. You know, so it was, you know,
I've definitely felt like that watching bands that are just. I watch it in the way that I like seeing bands like, dude, like Agnostic Front. I'm like, dude, these motherfuckers can move still. Like I'm just like sitting there like I play a 20 minute set. And I'm just like, fuck, I'm tired. And Agnostic Front's playing 40 minutes plus, you know. So it's like, dude, the stamina like some of you guys are showing is putting us young dudes to shame, you know. but can we talk about the rest of the band, because I personally know you guys, but it's the dynamic of the band and every member is kind of a crazy group of people. Like, who's in the band and what does everybody bring to the table? You know, Matt Henderson used to play in Madball. You're from Massachusetts, and then, you know, you got a member who's the drummer for Throwdown. It's a diverse group. But how did the group and who's in the band and what does everybody bring to the table?
So the thing I'll say is when we started, we didn't have a singer.
Mm-hmm.
It was me, like Kevin said, it was me, Kevin, and Doug. And
we actually thought it was going to be Luis, but it just didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. We tried a few people, right? I already forgot about the fact that Luis was one of the guys, and that was going good, I thought too. Like we had like
due time, and it's hard to do two bands and whatever.
That was it. But what
dude, you know?
Yeah.
I liked what he was doing with us, right? That's what I meant. He came to a couple rehearsals. He had some lyrics for a couple of the songs we were working on, and I mean it was a good direction we were going in, but as Kevin said, just logistically that wasn't going to be the way to go for him, clearly.
I think he gave us some of our best advice early on, because we were kind of all over the place. We had some stuff that was a little more punk rock, some stuff that was like a little more heavy. It was just kind of it was 15 years of me just writing riffs down and Matt writing, you know, and it was just kind of all over the place. Yeah. And he's like, you guys should just pick one and go for it. And so we were like, okay, we'll pick the heaviest, hardest stuff we could do. So that kind of, you can never go wrong.
Yeah, but I think, so point being, we didn't have a singer still.
Yeah.
Kevin was really the one that had the more contacts out here. Like everybody I knew out here were either already in bands, you know, or just, you know, not musicians really. Kevin knew a lot more people because he'd been out here a lot longer, and he had that history with Sergio, which was, you know,
Yeah, he's a great front man.
Sergio was a kid when he was 15 years old. When I was in Straight Face, we'd be like, "Hey, Sergio, come on up and sing a song." So we'd have this 15-year-old kid that would get up and sing and kill it, like kill it to the point where it was like kind of neck and neck with our actual singer. You know what I mean? Like, and we bumped into him. Actually, we went to a Terror show, and we bumped into him, and he's like, "Yeah, I want to sing for you guys." And we're like, "What?" You know, I knew him from then, and you know, I was like, "Nah, I don't know." And then, all right, send me a couple MP3s or whatever. We'll check it out. We're on the drive home. We're like, "Holy shit!" Like, he's such a diamond in the rough, and he's a great dude too. He's a super great with it. He's not only is he a good dude, but he's great with his kids, and he's just an all around good guy.
I mean, all around, he's a great frontman. You know, he's
energy levels fucking crazy.
So how did the Mark and is it your other guitar player, Gabe?
Adam. Yeah. So Mark, well, okay. So John LaCroix had jammed with him from 10 Yard Fight, a mutual friend of all of us. And he's like, "Oh, he's good." And he goes, "He was in Throwdown." And I love Throwdown. I like Pantera Throwdown too. You know, I like the whole like. I like both versions. I just think the second version should have been a different band. Yeah, it was a different band at that point. But I was like, "Whoa, Throwdown is besides Terror. You know, Terror is probably the closest to what we're the closest to what they're doing. I don't know, however the hell you want to call it, but." Throwdown was very much in similar vein stylistically in the beginning of you know, the East Coast hardcore, you know, the same style. And I thought like anybody who played in that band would 100% fit into what we're doing. And the drummer we had just had time issues where he couldn't do it. Doug, our first one, Doug couldn't do it. Same thing. He opened a gym. So that's how we got Mark. And Matt had just got a tattoo from him. So they kind of like sat down for 4 hours and felt each other out a little bit. And then I reached out to
figuratively, not literally.
Yeah, they were touching each other. Literally too. Sharing bodily fluids for 4 hours. And and so they ended up going to you know, they hit it off. And what's up with this guy? Is he cool? Yeah, super cool. So we hit it. And then Mark is actually, he's one of those guys that can play any instrument. Like, I don't know that. He plays bass. He played bass in Bleeding Through. He played drums in Throwdown. And he's one of those, he got a great ear. Like he'll catch if I'm playing a note flat in the studio or something. I mean, I'm not playing it wrong. Fuck you. And then like, then we listen to it like, all right, what am I supposed to play? Son of a bitch. But he's actually a really good guitar player and good bass player. That's awesome. And he comes with a lot of great ideas. So he's been great. And Adam is a friend of ours from San Diego. He's been involved in the San Diego hardcore scene, and we've known him for a while. That's awesome. He's been great, and he brings just the thump, brings some thunder. You know, nice. He's got some good tone, and really nice guy. So you guys just are putting out a 7-inch with the band Rikers, and I was fortunate enough to go in the studio and watch you guys record. You know, Matt, you've written probably one of my favorite records of all time. But watching you write and watching you guys record, you guys are very meticulous of the recording process. And you know, there's very few people that you see are very in tune to what they're writing and performing. How is that writing process for you guys? Like, is it like tedious? You know, because even the recording process is like watching you record. It's like, okay, no, this is gonna be better. You know, where a lot of times a lot of bands just like fuck it, let's go. You know,
and there's something to that for sure, right? I mean, sometimes like I know sometimes I can be perceived in a way where like you know, it's too perfect. You're it's too much of a perfectionist, but
it's very meticulous.
It's not one to be perfectionist. It's like it just doesn't quite sound like it's slamming yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I mean, I challenge most people that you write a song like the three of us, we're musicians, right? We could write 10 songs today, and we could record them, and you know, we'd have 10 songs, and they'd probably sound decent. But would they slam? Would they be like the type of songs that people are going to listen to over and over and say, that is my jam right there? Maybe you get lucky on one or two, maybe.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you know, number one, we don't get together real regularly. So there's a lot of time in between us getting together to work on anything. And then number two, I think it just helps that to live with the song. You know, you play it, you hear it, you listen to it. I mean, the new song, the trilogy, right, Kev? I mean, we've had parts of that song for years.
The riff that will not die.
The riff that will not die.
We write the song for almost the whole time we've been a band.
Yeah.
And put it on the front of one song, no, back of another one, no, and then we finally got it to the right spot.
So like, what's the writing process for you, like for you two specifically? Like, how does a eulogy song get written?
I think a lot of times I'll bring an idea in,
Yep.
and then Matt will go back, rework it. And sometimes it's little tweaks. Sometimes it's a totally new song.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hash it out and then get down the counts, like, oh, for that, no, 6 is a little too long, you know, that kind of thing. And then at the end of it, Sergio will come in 6-7 years later and write lyrics.
Yeah, I'd say, and I agree with everything Kevin said, but also I do think the rest of the band is, you know what I mean? Like, Kevin usually comes up with the ideas. He's got a good library of riffs. He's like, yo, let's try this, let's try that. Sometimes, like, it'll land on me right away. Other times I'm like, I don't know if I know where you're coming from, but let's give it a shot anyway, because I like that concept. Give me something that isn't familiar to me, and that's how I think something really cool will come out when we both add our, you know, touch to it. But, you know, definitely Sergio, Mark, I mean, they're there like with bringing ideas or change this riff here or do that. So I feel it's a good mix. We all work together in a good way that everyone's getting a little satisfaction. And
So it's a very group effort.
Yeah, I don't mean to like write the other guy's side of the story, because that, like I was saying, like with Mark in particular, you know, he's obviously writing the drum beats, and and he's got a great ear, so he'll be like, no, doesn't work, whatever. And Adam's. I mean,
some bands are like very, very particular in the sense like, yo, you know, this member writes everything, or this, you know, like for our band, Brian and Jason, for the most part, write everything, you know?
Yeah.
And it's you know, it's just some bands have that dynamic, and it's totally fine.
I think we mostly write the gist of it, and then it gets, but we do it together. So like everybody else is there, so it's everybody's part of it, you know? Yeah. Adam's so new to the band, is like, he had just joined not too long and learned our back catalog. We just started doing shows again, and we started recording, and then boom, the pandemic hits.
Yeah.
So but he's got some stuff. We haven't jammed since the pandemic started, so we all have material that we're all going to be writing, and everybody's been writing. Like Adam's been writing, Mark's been writing. So I think moving forward, it'll be a lot more of other people bringing whole songs into it versus, you know,
definitely
the way we've been doing it.
You know, the two of you have been involved in punk rock and hardcore for a very long time. So you've probably seen a plethora of fucking bands come and go and play. What's the best hardcore band in your opinion?
You know, I could never boil it down to just one. You know, and the good thing is I feel like there's bands that come out still, you know, new in the last 5 years and even more recent than that I think are somehow putting, it's not like the music's like new, but they make it sound fresh and vibrant still.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's you know, as long as someone's coming across with attitude and sincerity, it could be a band that sounds like anywhere from, you know, a Pennywise or Bad Religion style sound to fucking Hatebreed or Zabalba, right? Where it's like much more on the metal side. Style doesn't matter to me. It's, did you hit the nail on the head and give me something that I can like feel? And bands continue to do it, man, and I love it.
I mean, I guess what's your like all-time favorite hardcore band? Like, you know, not necessarily.
I don't have just one. That's just it. And that to me, that's what I love about hardcore, is that there's still a lot of good.
That's Agnostic Front for me.
Agnostic Front's your favorite hardcore band?
Yeah.
And Matt, I totally get what you're saying, because there's like, you know, there's the last, you know, 5 years there has been a lot of young bands that are just like, fuck, this is good, you know? but there's always that nostalgia of like for me, I'll say, you know, probably my all-time favorite hardcore band, I would say it's Strife.
Okay.
You know, there's bands that have came out that like, you know, definitely have that style, and I'm just like, yo, this is sick. But for me, I guess for nostalgia purposes, I was like, that's my favorite hardcore band, just because when I first started getting into hardcore, that was like the band that like.
Which record?
Yeah.
Who's Defiance?
Oh, masterpiece.
Masterpiece, front to back.
Those riffs. I was bumming out. Andrew was here. We're at Supply and Demand. And Andrew was here the other day watching the Terror live stream.
Yeah.
And I was bumming him out on the patio. Me and Erica were like, oh, fucking Strive. Oh, shit. Because I played a bunch of shows with him when I was in Straight Face. And, well, I liked him before that anyway. But, you know.
Yeah, but like, you know, because, you know, when I was younger, they're like one of the first bands I got to see. So like nostalgia, I still listen to that record. I'm just like, fuck yeah, you know?
Oh,
well, and so, you know, you're using the word nostalgia, right? And I obviously, look, I'm 50 years old. My first hardcore show was in 1984, which would have been some local, I think Husker Du actually in Minneapolis. In the smaller room at First Avenue, which was called 7th Street Entry. But the first bigger show I saw was Exploited in 84. And, you know, I was into all the different punk rock bands at the time, but when I was like, this is my shit, Agnostic Front, Cro-Mags. I mean, New York brought something to the table that, you know, was unique and exciting. And I mean, I'm always a little reluctant to say Agnostic Front as being my favorite band because I was fortunate enough to be in the band. Yeah. But the reality is they, you know, to me, it's still the Bible. Victim in Pain, to me, is still the fucking Bible because it's got the fast punk attitude, you know, as well as you can still get a little bit of like a metal sensibility within there with kind of the with time, the slow, dirgy shit, you know. And it's tough as fuck, man. So
like talk about Agnostic Front shows, like, you know, I've seen Agnostic Front in Europe too. And it's a whole nother level of like appreciation for Agnostic Front there. But you look into the crowd, it's like, you know, when you listen to Agnostic Front, there's punk parts, there's fast parts, then there's a fucking metal riff, and then there's just like the pattern of some of the songs. You're like, you know, like Skinheads love Agnostic Front too. So you watch the crowd, it's like such a diverse group of people, and it's the coolest fucking thing to see, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like,
and anthems. I mean, you know, Victim in Pain, the song itself, that when that chorus kicks in, everyone's sold. You know what I mean? Why am I going in? I mean,
there's very few bands that have done that, you know. To this day, at least in my opinion.
Them and the only couple bands I've kind of come out of pit retirement for, and it was only for a song or two, but it was Madball and Agnostic Front. You know, just like I toured with AF in Europe, and I used to see them. They'd play Boston all the time, like because we were just right down the street, and then Matt played with them. So I mean, I've probably seen the band. I don't think I'm 40, 50 times, and different eras, different times. They've more metal sometimes, more punk other times.
Yeah.
And there's just something about that Victim in Pain record. It's like they're climbing out of a fucking ruined building in the Lower East Side, and it's fucking music, and it just got a fucking. Matt described it as a violence to the music. There is something about that. It's got just that danger that was like when you go to a punk show back then, you were like, man, I might get my ass here, you know. And that music has that like shit. Like, this is real. This is like street shit. This is New York City sidewalk, fucking Lower East Side shit. You know,
it's definitely like one of those. You know, a lot of the what makes a band is just what the environment was. You know, that's what like made me like bands too. You know, like when did you stop playing for Madball?
Officially, my last tour with them would have been 1998.
Okay, so that's before, you know, I first got to see him. But like, you know, when I got into hardcore and punk, like here in LA, you know, punk was dominant, you know, backyard shows was dominant.
Right.
I liked hardcore too, but a lot of the things with hardcore when I first started going to hardcore shows was that it was very you know, at the time it was, you know, there's a couple extremes of hardcore, but for the most part, it was very, you know, it was all white dudes, you know, like for a big portion of it. And
very elitist in some places too. Like it's like we're the cool
Yeah.
kids and you're not one
well,
of
like you
us.
said, I grew up
and,
in the IE, so I grew up going to showcase where like one night was fucking punk, it was
Yeah.
sick, and then a hardcore show. But there's this there's a big part of the environment there was like a very, I don't know, like nothing against it, but like I love Throwdown, 18 Visions. That was like when the heyday of it.
Yeah.
But it was, if you look into the crowd, it's very, it was just all white dudes, very,
Yeah.
very, you know, I forgot who had a conversation, but at that time it was like, you know, in the 80s and the 90s, hardcore punk metal, it all kind of blended together.
Yeah.
I think when I came in, it started having its own little groups. But Madball was the first show I went to, and I was like, you know, when I was like, yo, there's some brown fools up there, you know, and it made me like feel at home. So it was like super cool. I was having an interview with Hoy. I was like, yo, you know, having an emphasis on being like, you know, and singing about it and playing music, it was like, oh, like this is for us too, you know. So that was like, it was pretty cool to see that Madball, you know, for my generation did that for a lot of people, you know, like made us feel accepted and welcomed, you know. But you know,
that's probably lost on a lot of people that don't grow up in a like a multicultural situation or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, I'm this white boy from Boston, but out here my whole family's Mexican, so
yeah,
I get maybe some of that culture that people wouldn't really catch on to from, you know, talking to the family or what,
Yeah.
you know, or having so many friends that are Latino, and then you go to other parts of the country, it's it's different.
Is
you know, on that the multicultural thing. So you know, growing up in Minneapolis, I grew up in St. Paul, but Minneapolis is where the shows really went down. And it was multicultural out of the gate from what I saw. And then there's a podcast that just came out. A friend of mine, Mike Crenshaw, from that time period, who was in Minneapolis, and he was one of the original Minneapolis Baldies. You know, there was that white power skinhead thing that was starting to come up in the mid to late 80s. And, you know, no one really knew exactly what it was, that it was even there, until all of a sudden it was fucking there. White power skinheads rolling up at these hardcore shows. It's like, oh shit, what's this? And, you know, I was just naturally friends with a lot of non-whites. I mean, that's just because I've always grown up around it. And I'm at these shows with all these, again, non-whites that are suddenly faced with this white power element. And it's like, oh shit. And so that, and then going to New York, same thing. New York was just multicultural, and it's just something I've always thought was the norm. And it's
and me too. You know, because whenever you think of like punk and hardcore, it was like it was always it was always an inclusive environment. You know, so I've never
Gothic Front, United and Strong, blacks and whites, punks and skins. I mean, out of the gate, day one, that's what I was hearing. You know?
I never perceived hardcore punk rock to not be inclusive. It was always just like, oh, sometimes you see kind of like a little group, you know, forming, but the whole Nazis and you know, coming to shows here, you know, I'm assuming back in that day it was a little bit more obvious, but here it's like, dude, sometimes it catches you off guard because, you know, we'll play shows or go to shows and like out of nowhere, just like, what the fuck, a bunch of like white power, like where the fuck did you come from, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very weird to see that because it's historically punk and hardcore has always been inclusive. You know, historically it's always been a very multicultural environment. So I was just like, you know, I don't know how these people thought they were welcomed, you know, to be fucking assholes, but
that's their gig, you know. That's what they do.
Yeah, I remember. Well, you'd see them in Boston. You'd see them when I was really young. You'd see occasionally one person or two people with a shirt, and then eventually they just like, if you were that, you weren't allowed around. Like just people would beat you down.
Yeah.
You know? And then out here I would see it, particularly like Orange County, Riverside. You know, because they have a lot of white dudes go to jail, so they're like the Peckerwood, you know, that kind of dude.
The first time I ever encountered them was actually at a Pennywise show in San Bernardino.
Yeah, there you go.
I think I was like 15. I went to a Pennywise show, and then out of nowhere, you just see these motherfuckers sing Highland. And at that age, dude, when you're 15 years old, you're fucking fearless. You're like nothing to me. I was like, man, fuck this fool. So I just like at that time, I was half the size I am now. I'm like, fuck this fool. Jumped up and tried to sock him, and then just got fucking smoked. But luckily, you know,
got a million friends.
In California, there's always like, there may be some Nazi skinheads, but I'm telling you, there's a lot more people that are not with you.
Really doing that shit. Yeah.
So, but going back to the music, as far as you guys writing and being a band, you guys played music for so long. What's your biggest influence as far as music? Like your favorite bands or musicians or people that like, fuck, I want to write like that, or
Take it, Kev, because it'll be interesting to hear what you say and what I say and how they blend.
I could actually tell you his, and he could tell you mine.
I'm assuming some Slayer shit, huh?
Slayer, but I don't really write music like Slayer because they're more like their style's very distinct.
Yeah.
I'm more like Obituary.
Oh yeah.
And Entombed. Yeah. Like when I hear Obituary and Entombed, I like a lot of the stuff that like obviously Madball, Terror, like those kind of bands. Like just those are kind of bands that when I Sabbath, obviously, any like Doom stuff.
Yeah.
Earlier era COC, Corrosion Conformity, like that stuff. That's the stuff that like riffs. I really like riffs. Yeah. So like I don't really want to just do like dun 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 dun. Like just okay, not to knock on just people doing like really minimalistic beat down hardcore, but I want to write a song. Like music, melodies, whatever, and riffs. I love riff-based rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my thing.
So Obituary and Tune. What's yours, Matt?
Yeah, man, because I've been doing it for so long. It's such a mishmash. But I mean, and this is the thing I like about the Eulogies, because for me, like, I mean, with Madball, there was a kind of a defined style that, in a way, me and Hoya together, well, definitely Hoya and I together, when we first started working together, started to create kind of a style that came from, what his elements were and what my elements were. And we met in the middle and it overlapped. And
it's funny because me and Hoya talked about that too. And I was, at the, I guess not to drive away from that, but I was just like, there really wasn't much to compare Madball to at that time. So I'm like, how the fuck you guys come up with this shit?
Well, like we know where it came from, and to us, I know like any song we wrote, him and I both know like, oh well, we know where that inspiration was from, right? So I guarantee you, I never felt like we invented anything, but I think what we did real well was take our inspirations and influences and create something that had a consistent sound for Madball that people identify with, and I'm proud of that. And, when you do it over and over, and this is something I give credit to Hoya for, is he recently was able to figure out a way to really just branch out completely different. I mean, that last record, stylistically, it's way different than the stuff him and I were writing together. There's some elements of it still, but so I give him a lot of credit. And for me, the Eulogy is that, where it's like, I don't feel like, Madball has a certain sound to it, so we kind of got to stick to that. You can't go too far, right? The Eulogy, Kevin's throwing ideas in, and aside from like my New York hardcore influence or any other musical influence, something I was never real big on, but am more big on now since I've been out here, is the California vibe, right? I mean, you mentioned, was it 18 Visions and So Mark and Sergio, that's definitely an era that they're familiar with, and everyone gets to throw in a lot of different influences that I think are awesome for this band, the Eulogy. And, for me, I guarantee you, though, I'm still approaching it from, again, AF, Victim in Pain, Killing Time is always going to be something in the back of my mind, but Sabbath, for sure. I mean, anything that's heavy and rocks, man, that's the goal.
Yeah.
It's funny because you didn't say it, but it's your biggest guitar influence is Eddie Van Halen.
Wow.
But it's like everybody's bandwagon right now. But Matt and the guys, they've been talking about Van Halen almost every day for 8 years.
Yeah.
They're not new. They're not new to the game.
I mean, you know, you listen to that Van Halen 1 record. I mean, they sound like Olympians. Like it's just, it's badass. It's an attitude that it's basically punk rock hardcore, but it's just a little bit more of a LA Sunset Strip vibe to it. You know?
Do you, I feel like most Van Halen fans. Do you have a Van Halen style guitar?
No, but I do got this. This was a recent purchase for me. I don't know if you can see
there
it.
You go. It's awesome.
Yo, it's bad, bro. It screams. It was a good purchase.
And we all play. You know, the guitar players play through 50s and 50s.
Yeah.
For his other rig.
So you know, obviously, the world fucking sucks right now. But you know, hardcore has always been a very in-person community, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, it's paved a lot of things for me, and it's the reason why I have a job, the reason why I am who I am today. And that's thanks to people that have been doing this style of music for so long. But why do you think hardcore still matters in 2020?
For pretty much the things you said. I mean, look, you know, I mean, I'm trying to think, Nate. I met you, I mean, well past 5 years ago, right? I mean, I've been out here since 2005. I probably met you, shit, I don't know,
We've been
5-7 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But meeting you that late in my stage of being into hardcore, and you being younger than me, so you starting later than I did, I still feel like you're a guy that I would know back in 1987. You know what I mean? It's like somehow this style, and it's the style of music's even kind of hard to define, but what keeps it hardcore, quote unquote, is the people, you know, the attitude of the people, and understanding it as a culture that we all relate to in a way that, I mean, we're friends. We relate to each other as people. That's more important than the style of music we're actually listening to. And people are holding on to that, as I know I am, and as I know you guys do. So, you know, we look to maintain that culture and that community that is a big part of hardcore. Well, right? So if we're going to do it virtually or realistically, you know,
hopefully realistically. Yeah. Well, there's something about it, like, you know, if I ran into someone that was a friend of yours from a band from, I don't know, Cleveland or whatever, I'd know that I'm going to like them. Yeah. I just know it. Same with Matt. If I'm tight with the guys in Rikers, we were talking to them yesterday, awesome dudes. You know, you just know. So there's something about, like, we have a tight little circle that's in the world, you know, it's worldwide, but we're for the people that stick it out for the long term. Eventually, you know everybody.
Yeah, it's not that big.
And, you know, that's why you don't talk shit. There's no secrets.
But, you know, that's why it's like, you know, going into this whole live streaming thing, it's a little bittersweet, just because it's like, for I think for us personally, it's a lot of, like, just trying to stay involved in the sense that, like, it's a hobby that, fuck, I still want to see new bands. I still want to, like, see how people are doing. And I think a lot of it's just to keep in communication with my peers and just be like, oh, fuck, like, how you doing? You know? But a lot of it's like, you know, I feel, I mean, and I'm coming from a younger age where the internet started playing a role on hardcore, but it's, you know, to me, it's always been like, fuck, I love going to shows. I love seeing my friends. I love watching a band. So, like, for that not to be a thing right now, it's scary, because, like, you know, I wonder what are kids doing nowadays to, like, you know, for me, I was sneaking out of the house to go to a show.
I just hope like,
so, like, what are kids sneaking out to do now? You know,
there's been I used to watch hockey all the time, and they had a couple lockouts or whatever, you know, whatever, where they shut the league down for a year or two. They did it once, and then they did another time. And I was watching hockey all the time. I haven't watched hockey since, so I hope it doesn't throw people off from being hooked on music.
Yeah.
You know, I hope it makes them yearn for it some more.
Yeah.
We better plug our new split.
Yeah.
Because so we got a split coming up with a band called Rikers from Germany, who they'll probably be on the same podcast.
So yeah,
as this.
they're on the same one.
And super cool guys. Matt's known Chris for many years. They've been around 25 years. Legendary band in Europe. People maybe on this coast might not appreciate what a big deal they are. But
yeah. So, I mean, I've been to Europe enough times where, like, you know, I've always heard of Rikers. I've actually got a chance to see them and listen to them. So, like, you know, I was telling them yesterday. I was like, it's so fucking cool to see. Like, you know, they've also been a band. They've been a band since the early '90s too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck, it's cool to see these dudes still fucking do it. You know.
Yeah, a lot of different styles too. Like they started this way and then they kind of evolved. And excellent band. Yeah. So that's really exciting. And we did something a little different. We covered Bloodstains by Agent Orange.
Yeah.
So we put our own take on it, and it's heavy. And we like put a real heavy take on it, but it kind of they had, you know, they're a California band, but they had that same kind of tension or aggression to it that an Agnostic Front had. Maybe not as intense, but certainly that song, the original, and hopefully we brought something to it. Gave a similar thing. That one's really cool. And then we're lucky to work with you on the trilogy.
That was fun.
Yeah, yo, you coming into that recording and being able to deliver the vocals on that one spot, because we had nothing for that. And like Sergio and I have been talking, it's like, you know, we got to do something. Don't know what it's going to be. And, you know, we'll figure it out. But I was sweating it a little bit because it's an important part of that song where it's like, there's nothing there. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And you rolled up and you got a notepad out. And I was like, my man.
I was like, I'll come up with something. I'm usually not a fan of guest vocals because, like, at least for me personally, it's just like I get so everything I've ever done has been personal in the sense of like writing. You know, it's always like this has to be something I wrote. So like a lot of the times when people ask to do guest vocals and sing a song or sing something, I'm just like, I don't know what you want. Like, I don't know what that is or that doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
So for me,
you're not feeling it. Like,
for you guys to like allow me to come in there and be like, yo, write something. I was like, okay, now I can think of something that like.
I thought it took it in a really nice.
Yeah, you know, it's like I wrote this section of this, you know.
Yeah, no, and it was spot on. Not only did your vocals sound hard as fuck, but I mean, and you're gonna confirm this for me. It sounds to me and felt like those words you chose were your words that you were latching on to what we were trying to say in that song, and you put your input into it, and it was like, yep.
We won't get deep into the meaning of the song. But,
we could. We
could.
I don't name names, but
so okay, let's talk about that song because that song. So when Sergio told me what the song is about, I was like, this is fucking perfect. Because like I felt like that for years. I was like, and can you explain what the song is about?
Yeah, so it's I'm interpreting what Sergio's told me. But it's basically there's some people that they did some stuff and they expect you to like kiss their ass for the rest of time being because they did a good record back in 1980, whatever.
Yeah.
And we're a all-star band or whatever. So some people might think we expect that. I don't expect shit. Yeah. I don't expect anything, other than people to be a good person.
Yeah.
No one should care what I did, whatever. But it's about these people. They think like the world owes them a free lunch every day because they wrote a good hardcore record in '88. And it's like, fuck you.
Yep. And that's spot on. Exactly part of the song, but it's even more widespread than that in terms of just internet communication with each other that leads to a whole bunch of bullshit, right?
Yeah.
People choosing sides for whatever it may be, not even political necessarily. And then like just, people just beating the shit out of each other online when, sometimes I guarantee you there are people out there who are just trolls because that's all they do.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of they got something to say and they're passionate about what they're talking about. Their whole objective is to get online and just bark back at whatever anyone's saying and be a dick.
Yeah.
Right? And then eventually, though, there's other people who interpret that as, oh, okay, that's the side I'm on, so now I'm on this side, and everyone's just, it's like, the fuck is everyone fighting each other for?
Yeah.
You know, like we somehow made a decision that we have to choose a side, fight each other, and then you got, you know, this asshole, you know, component to it, like Kevin's talking about, that is absolutely part of the song, where you got these older guys that dip into the internet scene, and they kind of come in with their attitude, like everyone's supposed to now like go kiss their ass because, oh, look, this dude joined up online, and you know, he's not getting the love he's expecting. And it's like, well, yeah, because you ain't coming with love towards all of us, you know? I don't give a fuck if you're 20 years old and didn't go to shows back when I did. If you're coming into it like you got, you know, an idea of what's already been laid out, that helps me. But also, I do expect younger kids to come in and bring a little attitude to it. You know what I mean? Maybe ruffle the feathers of the old guys a little bit. That's what we all did, you know? So, and then I'll turn to them and say, yo, I get it. But point being, you know, we shouldn't be all fighting each other. And if we choose to look at it the right way, we're good. Or maybe we do got to fight. I don't know.
Because when Sergio explained the song to me, I was like, you know, I'm very fortunate enough where, you know, I've made music my career, you know, so I work in the music industry, and then you meet a lot of people who are very humble, and then you meet a lot of people who are just, you know, motherfuckers think they're rock stars and shit, you know.
Yeah.
But for hardcore, there was never that space for that attitude. It's for the most part, you know, I've been fortunate enough to meet you two, but like, there's always these people that are just very humble and just like, you know, they're down to earth, you know. But then you meet these few people that are involved in such a small community that have this fucking attitude that like we owe you something, or like I understand what you did for this music community, but for someone to like expect things, it's like,
so yeah, exactly. And I know Kevin as well as me has seen this a million times where, again, because we go far back, we know a lot of guys from the old school, and some you know, guys coming, you know, from an earlier generation, they try to come to a show, they might feel a little intimidated, they might, you know, be thinking back on how they used to get a lot of love and respect because they were the, you know, the fucking king of the hill at the time, and now not quite so much. But you know, you got two ways to play that. You could just be cool and try to meet people in the way you would go to any place to try to meet someone and get to know people. And eventually you're going to get that love, I guarantee it, because that's the way it works. But if you come in kind of on the defensive and a little like, you know, people are going to sniff that out and it just ain't going to work. So we're saying, you know, we can be united as long as you be cool. And if not, that's on you, man.
Yeah. And I guess though, when you do see people that interact like that in a very defensive or like, just like kind of belittle what younger dudes are doing, it's very fucking obvious, you know. And it's just like
that's been for
you should get a big fuck you from them young kids, you know. I mean, who you?
Yeah, we fucked the world up. I one of the coolest things that for me, and some of these bands aren't that new, but they're new, I guess, to me. But like I sent Matt a video of Dead Heat, like from when they played here. That band is so fucking nasty. They're younger to me. They're older guys, I guess, probably to a young kid, right?
I don't know. They're pretty young.
How old are they? Like 20s, 30s?
Yeah, 20s.
20. Okay, yeah. Kick-ass band. And the best guys. And we hung out a little bit, had a couple beers, chatted. Like I said, it was like if Matt said, hey, these friends of mine from London, go hang out with them.
Yeah.
Best dudes ever. These guys are fucking awesome. And meeting I feel like I got to meet a whole generation of newer bands because we've been trying to pair. A lot of times with the live stream series, we can't get the legacy band to play here because they're older and got other issues and stuff. But the younger bands have been like doing the live stream, and then the Q&A has usually been with the more established band. So, but the younger bands are all hungry and they're kicking ass and meeting so many different. We've had emo bands in here, kind of shoegazy kind of bands. We got hardest of the hard, beat down, hardcore, like, and it just soup to nuts. It's been just such a cool series, you know, with all these different people.
Oh no, like logistically we can't get every band in here just because some bands are here. But
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see. For me, again, it's really cool to see the Eulogy be a band. It's it's members of bands I grew up listening to, and also you guys still write fucking bangers, which is sick. But it's also cool to see these young bands also becoming like every time we do a stream, like, oh fuck, I never heard this band. This band's sick.
You're like, holy shit.
We just did this band called Scalp the other day, and I was like, fuck, this band's good,
ACXDC.
Yeah, they've been around for a while, and they fucking rip.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to see a nice blend, and it's really cool to see the Eulogy be a band,
Yeah.
So that's awesome. We'll start wrapping this up, but
you said it all. You've done it all.
it's 2020, and it's pandemic, crazy politics. It seems like it's a wild roller coaster of a year, How's the year been for the two of you?
Awesome. It's been great.
That's great. Your bar's closed. If
My
you
bar's
didn't
been
notice.
closed for let's see, it's November. We've been closed since March. Yeah, things have been good. Things have been really good. Matt started a new restaurant this year. Things have been good with that.
Matt, how's it been for you? Like you're watching this world kind of. It almost feels like sometimes it's collapsing on itself. But have you been? Has it affected your life?
Oh, yeah.
And what are you doing to stay sane?
Well, going back to the recurring theme here, one of the things that has helped me stay sane is my brothers here. I mean, when like the real intense riot scene kicked off here in Long Beach, right outside the door of the distillery that we helped, invest in and open up this year, to, being aware of, and through that partnership, another restaurant just on the other side of our neighborhood, dudes sniffing around and, people, violence. Violence coming close to your doorstep on top of being locked down in a pandemic and, trying to understand, is this virus going to kill me? Is it going to kill my family? What the fuck is going to happen here in more intense and extreme ways than you typically got to deal with. Yeah. And then you get the political end of it with all, conspiracy theories or truth. Who the fuck even knows these days, right? But the one thing I maintain is I talk to you. I keep, as long as we communicate with each other directly and we get outside of all the internet bullshit, you find out that, fuck, man, we're actually all okay. You know what I mean? Like, we can be okay. We can stick together and work together. There's, still some problems. Unfortunately, it hasn't reopened Kevin's bar or our distillery or, allowed you and us to play live shows yet. But fuck, man, as long as we just stick together, I feel like we can be okay. Thankfully, I still got my health. I am still employed. So, I do count my blessings, which I'm fortunate enough to say I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Same here. Yeah.
I think that's for me, it's been my saving grace. Like, honestly, a lot of times, like, oh, why do you spend so much time or invest so much time in doing these live streams? And I was like, I just need something to fucking do because, I'm not able to work or tour. So I'm like, it's keeping my sanity,
Well, and that's just it. You're a smart dude, man, because things are changing and it's up to us to find the opportunities, right? To figure out, well, I guess there's got to be a new way right now. And we've, as a society, we've been through this type of shit before, not this exactly necessarily, but where things suddenly changed and shit broke down and had to get rebuilt and people had to figure out new ways to do things and forget about the old ways. So clearly that's part of what's going on right now. And, sounds like you got a handle on it.
I think that's a very hardcore mentality, the whole DIY aesthetic of figuring it the fuck out, or you watching other people crumble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most people that I know in my industry, a lot of them come from a punk rock background, and it's because, like, I don't know, I'm gonna figure it the fuck out. You know?
I feel like the DIY part of it like has helped me a lot, just not just through this last year, but just through life. You know, that when I was 16, flyering in front of a show to, you know, hey, come see my band. Some flyer I made it at Kinko's. I have no talent artistically to speak of. You know, let's do it. What, you know, you just like, well, no one else is gonna make a flyer. I gotta make a flyer. So you kind of you just push. Well, fuck it, I'll do it. I don't have a website. We'll make one. Okay, whatever. You know.
So if the world doesn't know, Kevin is actually one of the owners of Supply and Demand here in Long Beach, where we've pretty much turned into a studio now. But you know how
not that way. That way. That's still a bar.
You know, Supply and Demand has been the hub for all these live streams and hosting bands, and you know, I think
we've probably had, because it takes usually two to do one.
Yeah.
Probably had 50, 60 different tapings here. Yeah. Over the summer. So.
And I think, you know, that's simply because of your love for music. Because other than that, we're just spending money. But how's COVID-19 for you? Like, how's this whole pandemic?
It's been rough, man.
It seems like politics are taking its toll now, where we can't open up.
So it's both sides. You got the one side that's like a death cult that want to like go to a rally with 40,000 people with no mask, and then the other side they're like they just want to shut everything down 100%, and it's like you know, it just seems too much on that extreme also. But it's been a rough year. Besides, my mom passed away this year, so not being able to, she's in Boston, all that kind of stuff. So it's been rough, and these things are these streams are like kind of kept me from dwelling, I guess. You know, I'd been really just concentrating on doing stuff here at the bar. I've fortunately got a day job that I've been able to I worked out of the office part of the year. For most of the year we've been telecommuting, you know, a good chunk of it anyway. So that's, thank God I have a job. Otherwise
other than that, like
position,
this,
you know,
I'm watching firsthand, you know, my friend's bar take a fucking toll every day. You know, it's really hard to watch that. You know, the other day on Instagram, some lady, you know, she was forced to close down her restaurant, and literally next door was like some movie company. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Catering in a parking lot.
And dude, I was like, that's such a slap in the face.
Yeah, and then you see the governor.
Now check this out. So I just saw that video for the first time this morning, and the link that was sent to me is on some RT network, some RT news network, which I didn't even pay attention to, and I sent it to my.
That's a Russian information network. Yeah.
Yeah. What the fuck? Like all of a sudden, so I'm thinking like this is fucked up, and it is the story.
Yeah.
But then I sent it to my boy in Minnesota, and he's like, "Yo, you know what that site's about, right?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "That's Russian information that's known for infiltrating and trying to fuck up our whole, you know, societal, you know, stability."
Dude, that's why I try to stay away from that.
That's the crazy part is like you with right now you've got like you could put all politics, like put party aside and just candidate. You got one guy who's like president who's he's asleep at the wheel. He's just not doing anything. He's just claiming he lost an election by 6 million votes. And he's like, they stole it. You lost by 6 million, motherfucker. You didn't lose by like 10. 6 fucking million votes and a ton in the electoral college. And
he put that shit on cruise control now.
and then he just puts it in the COVID's going through the roof. That's what's made this year so much worse, is just not having someone who's, I wish we had a Republican that was sane. I don't care, pick one. That's not a nut. That's not Trump. That was our president, or a Democrat, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just having someone president that was like, hey, we're going to get you through it. We got a plan. I was listening to Biden yesterday, and he was saying that they didn't have a plan other than like, okay, here's a bunch of vaccines to the states. That's their plan from the federal government. And you're like, it's going to be an endless loop.
Yeah,
you know.
Listen, I share the lack of enthusiasm about Trump as you do, clearly, right? I'm not a fan.
At a winery, eating a $500 plate dinner. Going, hey, you should be closed. So we got Newsom on the one end. It's like,
right.
Close it down. I'm gonna go get some $500 bottle of wine and a steak dinner, and
Yeah.
you know, but you
Well,
guys couldn't leave your house.
You know, my mom, I did a recent Zoom call with my parents. I got my boys, and my parents are in Minnesota.
Nice.
And the minute my mom joins, she's holding up a Biden Harris sign, and she's like dancing around like she just won the lottery. And I'm like, you know, I want to be excited for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know, man. I don't feel great about any of these motherfuckers, and that's where I'm at in 2020.
Yeah.
There's so much bullshit out there, and I don't believe anyone's got the answer. And
Well,
and
you basically went from complete insanity to just normal. So you didn't get like a Superman. You just got like what you normally have.
yeah, in my opinion, status quo on what ain't been doing the right thing for us as people either.
Yeah. But it at least the foot's off the gas pedal.
Yeah. I mean, dude,
I get it.
Politics, like, you know, for the most part, I've always steered away from politics just because it's like the only thing I cared about is making money, putting food on my table, and paying fucking rent.
2020 is where politics intersects with your life.
So yeah, this is the first, you know, this is one of the first times in my life where I'm very detailed and very attentive to what's going on in politics, and on either spectrum, I'm like, fuck all these people, you know. At this point, it's like I care about my community, I care about my friends, and how we can sustain the hardest.
There's good people. Like I was a political director of my union for many, many years, and there are some great people in both parties that do good things all the time, but they're not the ones you see on TV. They're like some guys, a council member.
But seeing the detail, the hardest part is seeing some, you know, politics take its toll on our personal life and take away so much.
There's the Facebook, the social media thing where it's made it just go so polarized, so fast.
Yeah, so that's a problem, you know.
You got to pick a team, and you know, like there's a, you know, I know I certainly don't like paying a lot of taxes. Maybe you guys really like giving more of your paycheck away than, you know. Of course not. Nobody likes giving taxes. So you having someone say, "Hey, stop taking all our tax dollars and make what you got work." Typically a Republican position. Good. That's a good position, you know, or like, hey, don't just spend all the money on a bunch of taxes,
I can go on taxes all day. I don't mind paying taxes
if we get the service. Yeah.
But everything you're talking about isn't even covering the fact that there are a lot of people out in the world right now, like sane people who are like normal people who have actually, through information put out on the internet, basically believe that the Democrats are aligned with child sacrificing Satanists.
Yeah, like that's
that's a real story that people a lot of people believe is reality. And fuck it, in 2020, I don't know if I can tell you it's not true, to be honest.
I don't know anymore, you know. Now it's just like, you know, I hope politics.
I think I can go on record saying that's not true.
I mean, I'd like to think so too. Yeah.
I would fucking hope so, you know. But you know, nowadays in 2020, I just hope politics go into the favor of people and their communities, because, you know, me being an average Joe blue collar worker, fuck, I don't even know if I'm gonna make it next month, you know, and that's the scary part, you know.
Yeah.
That, you know, I got hit up for taxes yesterday. I'm like, bitch, like, where do you want me to get money from? You see, you have access to my account.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very scary place, and it seems to never favor the people in their community. So
it's scary.
Fuck them all, dude. That's me.
That's right.
Exactly. That's right.
But you know, before we let you guys go, the Eulogy Rikers 7-inch, I personally listened to it, and it's fucking awesome. You know, but when does that come out?
February 2nd or 4th, something like that.
Awesome.
Mark your calendar. You can buy them on Cortex in Europe, so they'll ship them to you, and then they're going to be on Rev HQ.
Awesome.
That's coming up really quick, so keep posting.
It's a real quick shout out, right, to the European friends that we got out there. Cortex, who's a big, you know, foundation of like merch and you know, labels, and they really help keep the scene alive out there in Germany is their hub, and Europe as a whole. Unity Worldwide, my friend Billy is the guy who actually put this split together and partnered with Cortex and Rev. So, you know,
they've been amazing. You know, we put a obviously put a lot of records out over the years. And
Yeah, that new Field Day Billy just put out, and I mean he's working. He's putting good shit out.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So shout out to all those guys.
So-
shout out to Rikers.
Any other shout outs to the world or any messages to the kids before we let you go?
Keep doing it, man. Let's keep going. I mean, well, whether we see eye to eye on everything or not, there's guaranteed there's more common ground than not.
Yeah.
But we should all still look to keep this shit moving.
Yeah. Dude, I can't wait to play a show. That's
I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I want someone covered in sweat running into me, but hopefully it'll be.
Well, once it's normal.
Once it's normal.
I'm watching.
I might actually enjoy it at this point, just because it's been so long since it's been around that.
I'm watching some supply and demand transform into like the perfect like hardcore venue. I'm just dummy proofing it.
Yeah, we're hardening all the corners and.
But guys, thank you again for joining us. I'll see you guys both after this.
Stay safe, everybody.
Peace out.
All right, fellas.